So on the 1st of October 2016, I posted a video on this YouTube channel saying I just finished my first day of the Biophysics PhD at King's College. And I was so full of excitement thinking, man, I finally got onto a PhD course. I finally started. This is it. I'm going to be a researcher, a scientist. Little did I know what was to come. All the struggles that people have when they say, people write on forums and say, should I quit? It's really stressful. There's so much to do, so much to live up to. And I thought, it sounds hard, but it sounds doable. Other people have done it before. It can't be that bad. I was wrong. It was worse. It was so difficult to do. 2 months in, I realized I was in over my head, seeing students and postdocs ahead of me, thinking there's no way I'm going to get to that level anytime soon. Some of these people are like a year in and they know way more than me. How am I ever going to get to that level? Turns out the people I looked up to weren't quite as far ahead as I thought they were. But that's when things got quite difficult, trying to juggle life with a PhD, which you should treat as a job, but ultimately it becomes your life. It takes over your life. Most people would recommend treating it like a 9-to-5, Monday to Friday job, having a good work-life balance and not letting it consume you, not letting it take over your identity. But it's easier said than done. I knew I shouldn't do that, but that's what happened. That's what happens to most people, and it's hard. Maybe halfway through, I considered quitting. I got quite depressed. And the sad thing is, I don't think that's uncommon. And I was very close to quitting and leaving the PhD and saying, you know what, maybe I'm not cut out for it. Maybe all these other people that have done PhDs were better than me. And these thoughts go through your head and you think, why am I doing a PhD? Do I need the PhD to get the job that I want? So that was in 2017, 2018. And ultimately, I made the decision to carry on. It started on the 1st of October 2016. It was supposed to finish on the 1st of October 2020. But as we all know, there was an illness, shall we say, that went around that caused some issues with the PhD. I was given a 3 months extension, which did help a lot and was necessary, and I almost requested another extension. In fact, the new deadline was the end of December, and maybe halfway through December, I hadn't written my last chapter. I hadn't drafted it, I hadn't made any figures. I had a title and a date, but I didn't have any content for it. And I was very close to requesting an extension so that I could finish this final chapter. I just got so tired of writing the PhD in lockdown, but also just tired of the PhD after over 4 years, that I said, you know what, I'm going to delete this chapter, which didn't exist. I'm going to delete it from the table of contents, and I'm going to submit the thesis with what I've got. If the examiners come back and say, you don't have enough, we need more, great, I'll do it then. But I'm not requesting an extension and dragging this out even longer than it needs to be. So on December 28th, 2020, I submitted my thesis and enjoyed New Year's unemployed. So 6 weeks after I handed in the thesis, because of the illness, this was all on Zoom. So it was very weird because I was wearing a very smart shirt and cargo shorts underneath, because why not? And I was absolutely bricking it, honestly. I was getting ready to fail. I was very much in my head planning, when I get told that I fail, what do I do? Do I do corrections? Do I write another chapter, the chapter that was missing, put that in, and then resubmit, and then do the Viva again? So I was petrified. Turns out I shouldn't have been, because maybe 2 or 3 hours later, after quite a nice discussion, bit of a grilling, but it wasn't that bad. Ultimately, if you've got your Viva coming up, you have to remember that the examiners want you to pass. They are not there to find a reason for you to fail. They want you to get your PhD. After I defended, normally you would leave the room, they would discuss, and then you'd be asked back in, and they would say, congratulations, or they would say, unfortunately, blah, blah, blah. But at the end, I didn't even get that. I didn't get the suspense. They just said, we don't need to discuss. I think we're both happy to give you your PhD and say that you've passed, which was amazing. They said, you've got minor corrections. We'll give you 3 months. I did that. They checked them over, said, yep, this is fine, great. And on the 1st of October, 2021, 5 years after my first day, I received a letter awarding me a PhD in biophysics. And it feels great to finally have it done. Just the fact that I can work relatively normal hours, 9 to 5, Monday to Friday, makes life so much more pleasant. Because during the PhD, you have this lingering, guilty voice saying, you need to work. And there's this illusion that all the other PhD students, the supervisors, the postdocs, are always working. If you dare to take a break, watch Netflix or YouTube, then you're somehow falling behind or you're not as good as everyone else. And that is absolutely garbage. Not true whatsoever. Everyone in academia pretends to work 25-hour days, and they do not. So final thoughts. Was the PhD worth it? In a word, yes. I'm glad I finished the PhD. I'm glad I didn't quit. To have the PhD done feels amazing. To get that letter saying, congratulations, doctor, is so good. And in that sense, it was worth it. I'm glad I didn't quit. The next question then is, knowing what I know now, would I go back and do it again? Would I make the same decision and do the PhD? No, absolutely not. I learned a lot and I grew as a person, as a researcher. I'm really glad I finished it. But knowing what I know now, I would put my time and effort into my career progression, my hobbies, my relationships, friends and family. I would put that energy into every other facet of my life rather than do the PhD again. But man, it feels so good. It feels so good for it to be done. I'm so happy that I saw it through. I think the one big lesson, the one big takeaway from the PhD that I learned, where my personal line is for seeing something through, persevering, and knowing when to quit. If my struggles had come earlier in the PhD, the correct decision would have been to quit. But they didn't, they came later. I made the decision to persevere and finish, and I'm glad that I did. But what I learned was when to persevere and when to quit, because sometimes the correct decision is to quit. But regardless, the PhD is over, it's done, no more thesis writing, no more references, no more figures, no more endnote, no, none of this shit. It's done, I'm finished, I have a PhD. If you want to watch more videos about PhD advice, what to do after, during, how to pick your supervisor, how to write your thesis, consider subscribing, and I'll see you there.